Hello. Sorry, my voice is raspy. It's kind of always like that. I think I have like acid reflux or something, but some reason my voice sucks, doesn't work properly. But anyway, um, I'm here to talk to you about hell. Hell, you've probably heard of. Um, Usually, most people hear about it from the Christian religion, but it's not a Christian word at all. It's a Nordic, pagan word. Uh, Describes, basically where Valhalla is, the underworld, the realm of the gods. And basically, oh, first of all, this is my cat. Well, it's not really my cat. This is Oreo. He is the cat of this house, but he's basically become like my cat a bit. So yeah, hi Oreo. All right. So hell was what the Vikings said, and the Nordic, people, the Norse. They said that there was a land across the ocean, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, known as hell. Um, I'm new to making these videos. I'm new to even having a smartphone, so this is very awkwardly done. But sorry, I'm trying, kind of. But anyway, so hell is actually America. Um, Hell, I mean, it includes America. It might extend somewhat beyond America as well. It could include, well, it seems to include, for instance, Antarctica, and, it might also include Australia. It's basically, hell is the Germanic word, the English word, the German, basically in all the European languages, I think, other than the Latin languages and, yeah, basically Germany, Scandinavia, Austria, Netherlands, Britain, uh, France. I'm not sure. Well, France is more Latinized, I guess. French is, but in all those other places, and most of at least Northern Europe, uh, hell is the word for the underworld. And this was true long before Christianity ever came to Europe or existed. Um, so basically, let's see, I'll try to find some things to explain. Just a second. All right, sorry, I just had to tell off some really dumb troll there on Twitter for a sec. But yeah, it's not that you should just trust me that just because I say necessarily that hell is America, therefore it is. But you can listen to my reasoning and you can find out if there's anything disproving it and if there's anything corroborating it. And let's see, find some images to help illustrate this. See if I can use my laptop as a as like a PowerPoint or something. So here's let's see, what do we got? Like the underworld had different names in different So it's so awkward to hold in different cultures and religions and whatever. So in for Northern Europeans, it's called hell. For the Greeks, it was called Hades. Probably still is called Hades in Greece. Um, so in the New Testament itself, and maybe in the Old Testament as well, um, most of the places where it would say hell in an English translation, like in a you know, King James version or something like that, it the original Greek version would be Hades, because the Bible is the New Testament was the oldest. All the oldest versions are in Greek, and then the version of the Old Testament that was used by the early Christians, including seemingly by Jesus, was the Septuagint, which was Greek. It was a Greek, you know, translation of the Torah. So, yeah, it has different names in different languages. It's called the underworld because it's underneath the world, um, and so like it's different wherever you are. Like obviously, for all those people, like the Greeks and the Europeans, the underworld is America, the underworld is Antarctica. But for, obviously for like the Mayans or the Incas or whatnot, the underworld was totally different. For the Mayans, the underworld would be like, um, the old world, basically, Eurasia and Africa, and particularly Southern Africa. Um, and then for the particularly Southern Africa for the Mayans, and particularly Eurasia and Northern Africa for the Incas, because it's antipodal. It's just the underworld is whatever is on the opposite side of the planet from you. Um, this has all been understood by non-Europeans basically, and non-Christians, because it behooves Christians and Muslims, and I mean, but yeah, especially Christians, it behooves most Christians, especially who live in the Americas, to not know this, to ignore it, and if they see evidence of it, to ignore it and try to discount it, because they don't want to admit they live in hell, and they don't want to admit that like what they've been teaching about hell is very fanciful, that if any of those things exist in hell, they're invisible. They're certainly, you can't see like the dead souls being tortured or anything like that. I mean, of course, you could argue that it's still happening, it's invisible. Who knows? Maybe every place is the hell of its antipode. Of course, uh, for like every place is some places hell, is some places antipodal region. But the thing is, like historically, that hell was not really a bad place. Hell, and to a large extent, hell was a good place, and the whole point of life was to try to end up there, as opposed to like just being stuck in your grave or something. If you didn't pay the charon, you didn't put the gold coin under your. I mean, they went to very, very great lengths to ensure that the kings and the leaders of Europe and of all over the world reached hell. When they died, that they reached the underworld. Um, so the Christian version of hell is very novel and very much of a departure. Um, Although it might have some antecedents, or how do you pronounce that, in like Zoroastrianism, and maybe in and in Hinduism, but it's hard to know how old all that is. I mean, yeah, I think it does exist there are like the negative connotations that eventually cropped up within Hinduism, and that might have been prior to Christianity. But I think the original, a lot of the oldest Vedic texts and the oldest Avestan, maybe like maybe pre-Zoroastrian Persian texts have uh, the underworld as a relatively positive place, and then later on it eventually became like a negative place. So part of that might have been politics. It might have been to do with who was in the underworld, because a lot of the texts seem to suggest that the underworld was inhabited by people who used to live in India and basically were uh, exiled to the underworld, to Patala, uh, by by the Aryans. So potentially Dravidian people, like potentially the Indus Valley civilization or other related or contemporary civilizations of the subcontinent, and and that which we do see what seems to be a huge influence of the Indus Valley civilization on pre-Columbian American culture, beginning possibly with the Paracas people of Peru, who shared a lot of the same artistic motifs and other distinguishing features of Harappan Indus Valley civilization, particularly the Nal culture of Balochistan. So anyway, I'm going to show you some, like in Egypt, hell was called Amentet Neferet, which means the beautiful west. So this is, I have a picture of an Egyptian map of hell, or of Amentet Neferet, from about, well, from seemingly over 5,000 years ago, possibly as old as like 5,400 or even 5,500 years ago, somewhere in between there, possibly in terms of at least when it was painted, although it seems to be like based on multiple maps, so it might be much older than that in its origins. So here we go. How do I switch this thing? Switchy switch. No, come on. Switch. Okay, I don't know. I'll just do it like this. You can see. Oh, I know. I do it there. Right? No. Oh, crap. Do not know how to switch this thing over. All right. Well, until I figure out how to like work this stuff, I'll just show a couple of these things. So here's the map of the underworld, America, the beautiful West, Amentet Neferet, which we call hell in English. And what else we got here? And it's next to a map of from Europe, which is seemingly a lot less exact and a lot less accurate than the Egyptian map, but the European one is from 1507, so it's basically like 5,000 years later ish. And let's see what else we got here. Here's another Egyptian map of hell. It is This one is only 3,000 years old, and this is a basically, copy of it. Um, the original is a little bit faded, so I'm using this because it has the clear lines. And by the way, this original one is from the the Tomb 100 at Hierakonpolis in Egypt. I believe it's also called Nechen, or maybe the ancient name of it was Nechen. It was like one of the early centers of, what became the pharaonic civilization. This one is from Hermopolis, which is the city of Thoth. Uh, and here we actually can see more details. We can see, for instance, these islands here, like the long, skinny island of Cuba here, the shorter, squatter island of Hispaniola here. We see clearly the Baja Peninsula coming down here. I've used a couple of different images here, so it's pretty awkward. I should redo this or make some more versions of this that are clearer. But if you look closely, you can figure it out. Basically, this is the Baja Peninsula here. This is the one on the Egyptian map. This is the Alaskan Peninsula on this one. Here's the Alaskan Peninsula on the Egyptian map. This is Newfoundland, which is shaped like a rabbit with like ears sticking up here. And then here it is depicted as a rabbit, like a zoomorphic representation. Here we can also see the river, the Santiago de, or Rio Grande de Santiago. And then here we see river, well, here's the Rio Grande de Santiago, and it's in, basically the same position and similar direction as it is on the Egyptian map, although it is more stylized in this one, I think. And then here you have these rivers on the Yucatan Peninsula depicted as some kind of squirrel-ish thing, and you have this snake, which is, appropriate as just for its shape, being the Amazon River. And then you have this, which I don't know what this is, some wetlands and lakes and stuff, which look like which really do look like some kind of primate, and then like a baboon. Honestly, it does look like a baboon. And then here you see it represented as a baboon. And then here you see this little guy, and then that I think corresponds to the not Faroe Islands. What are these called? The well, whatever the. I'm very sorry to anybody that lives on those islands, but I forgot the name. And then obviously, here is Greenland, and this is the that peninsula, this peninsula right here. And so those are all the major ones. Also, this one here might be the Rio Grande, the one that separates the U.S. from Mexico. And then the only other one, I think I'll just show, this one has a variety of different maps of the underworld, Egyptian maps of the underworld. This is that 5,000-year-old one. This is the 3,000-year-old one. And then these ones are a little, maybe between the two. This one's probably about 3,000 years old. And then this one just seems to show like a kind of oblong representation of the world where the figures on each side of the planet are, the gravity is opposite, basically, like these these people are upside down, these people are right side up, and there's a lot of these type of depictions that show that the Egyptians understood, the nature of the planet and of gravity, and just like the Greeks obviously knew about that the world was round. Plato said the world was round. The Hindus said the world was round. Everybody honestly knew the world was globular, was a sphere up until, I guess, that 4chan psyop. What they're trying to tell people it's flat. But the only real like flat Earth hoax that people are dumb enough to buy into, or are at least brainwashed enough to buy into, is the hoax that of believing that people used to think the world was flat. Because if you actually read history and you read what the ancients wrote, they did not think it was flat. They said it was round. They basically all said it was round, and they understood the nature of it. They understood that on the other side of the planet was an upside down land, basically, which they all referred to as the underworld, and with other different names. So there you go. If you live in America, you live in hell. And hell was a holy land. It was also called the Green Land, and the land of vines, and which I think might have been part of the origin of the name of Greenland and of Vinland that the Vikings discovered, or rediscovered. And also Helluland, which is what the Vikings named the one time that they actually saw the mainland U.S. or close to the mainland. I believe they named it Helluland, which basically means Hell Land. And yeah, so don't believe what the Christians say about it. It's actually was a pretty awesome place until the Christians arrived. Now they're actually turning it into what they portray it as. But there's still hope. So anyway, I think that was a long enough video. 22 minutes, probably too long. Still do not understand this phone, but thank you. It's like I'm always forever looking not at the... Oh, okay, I get it. All right. Here we are. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. If you're a normal skeptic, debunker person, you're like, oh my God, my professor never said this. This guy's, fraud. Then just, I guess, keep believing that. But if you are open-minded at all, then I'd encourage you to research it, because I've researched this for years, and it's reality. So thank you much. Have a pleasant day.